I'm not frequently a fan of hiatal hernia surgery. That doesn't mean I think it should never occur. I want to make that perfectly clear. But speaking to patients, reading comments from my YouTube channel, I'm definitely hearing more and more about something called a dumping syndrome. Very elegant term, but the word dumping does make sense. You'll hear in a moment. But this is one of the side effects of having hiatal hernia surgery, and it is most common with the procedure called a Nissen, just named after the doctor, Fundoplication. So the fundus is the upper part of your stomach, and plication just means a folding, and or wrapping, and that's what they do. They take the upper part of the stomach and they wrap it around the esophagus to make it less likely that reflux will happen. So that's what they're targeting. So with this dumping syndrome, what it's referring to is that your stomach, food goes into your stomach and then it rapidly empties into your small intestine, and creating some really undesirable symptoms, very undesirable symptoms. Because what should happen is when food enters your stomach, it's kind of churned around in your stomach, and the contents should be there half an hour plus, and a lot of absorption takes place, and that's one of the things I comment about with PPI medications, is that because they diminish the acid in the stomach, you're diminishing your ability to absorb. So if things are moving too rapidly through the stomach, again, you're diminishing your ability to break down your food and also absorb certain minerals and vitamins. So that's a problem. So let's jump into it. How frequently does it happen, the dumping syndrome? Up to 20% of the time. So this is not a 2% incidence. This is an up to 20% incidence, which is really high. That's something, obviously 1 in 5. So something to really consider before you jump into these surgeries. And I do feel that they are recommended way too frequently for those who have small sliding hiatal hernias up to medium size sliding hiatal hernias. I say sliding because 95% of them are sliding. So there's so much that can be done to rebalance, tone, regain optimal function without necessarily putting yourself in potential harm's way with the surgery. Again, I don't think they're never indicated, but I think they're recommended way too often, and I don't think patients are given the full perspective of what can happen. So why does it happen? The one thing is what they're doing in the surgery is they're tightening the lower esophageal sphincter. So the sphincter is just a valve, and the lower esophageal sphincter is just above where your stomach is, and when a hiatal hernia happens and part of the stomach comes up into the esophagus, then that sphincter can be damaged to a degree, and so they're tightening it up. So that's one reason why it happens. The other thing is that when the stomach is repositioned or wrapped, which really is the definition of the surgery, so they're saying that the why is the surgery itself. The other why was that sometimes with the surgery, they're shortening the esophagus, so that can cause problems. The human body is such an incredible machine, and the intricacies of it and the design, after 40 years of doing this, I'm continually blown away by these deeper mechanisms and how they function. And so it makes sense. And again, it's not that surgery should never occur, but only when it really, really has to, because there are trickle-down effects that can be very, very major when you alter what Mother Nature created. So let's so those 3 factors I just mentioned, shortening the esophagus, wrapping the stomach, altering its position, and then tightening the lower esophageal sphincter, it interferes with what's called the normal pacing of how the stomach digests and processes food. So that's part of it. Now, the mechanism that occurs is that the stomach can actually lose its ability to stretch and to accommodate food. So when food comes in, your stomach stretches, and then, as I said, it has to sort of churn that food around. So if it loses that ability to stretch, then it just dumps. It just says, get it out of here. Also, the surgery can bypass and or damage branches of the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is that incredibly longest cranial nerve that you have in your body that goes to every single sphincter. You have 10 to 15. I've just talked about the lower esophageal sphincter. We'll also talk about the one that connects the stomach to the small intestine in a moment, called the pyloric sphincter. But the vagus nerve goes to all these sphincters, and it has it's got its hand in the functioning of your gut across the entirety of your gut, including your esophagus, your heart, your diaphragm. So a lot of it explains why, when you have hiatal hernia syndrome or you have acid reflux, why you can also get heart symptoms and breathing symptoms. There's a functional part of that, but then there's also the nervous system part having to do with the vagus nerve. So if you damage or bypass branches of the vagus nerve, one of the many things it does is it regulates the speed at which your stomach empties itself. So that can be another reason for this dumping syndrome. And then you can damage or create malfunction of the pyloric sphincter. So again, that is, you've got the lower esophageal sphincter letting food go down the esophagus into the stomach, but not the other way. Then you have the stomach churning around the food, and then it pushes out through that pyloric sphincter when it's ready to get into the small intestine, where the majority of absorption takes place. But if that pyloric sphincter has gotten damaged or dysregulated, then what happens is, as that stomach is churning around the food, there's some pressure, right, on that sphincter, and it has to hold, it has to hold back that pressure until there's proper digestion, and then it lets it go. And so if for some reason it's malfunctioning secondary to this surgery, what happens is any pressure and it just goes, and that's where you get this very fast emptying of the stomach, which is problematic. So there's two types of dumping. The first one is called early, and that happens, within 15-20 minutes or so. And so the symptoms you can experience is nausea, cramping, bloating, diarrhea or urgent bowel movements, dizziness, faintness, and rapid heartbeat. So pretty miserable. And the people I've heard that have experienced this, it's terrible, because again, you eat to nourish yourself and to absorb nutrients, and if things are just passing through very quickly, that's not happening. So of course you feel terrible. Then there's also late dumping, which is after 1 to 3 hours, and this is where after eating you get what's called a rebound hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. So nutrients are coming in, and blood sugar goes up and just drops. And with that, the symptoms are weakness, sweating. You can feel faint. You can actually faint, have brain fog, be shaky, again, heart palpitations. So they're all miserable experiences, but whether you've got the early or the late, that's what the experience is. So the research I did is just talking about managing it. So very small meals, you can't drink and eat at the same time, which is a good recommendation regardless. I like people to not drink while they're eating, because it dilutes your enzymes, but very small meals, certain types of food, and then of course there's medications to manage the symptoms. But boy, if that's been turned on, there wasn't a remedy to turn it off. It was just, okay, let's try to manage. And you're talking about a lot of malabsorption and a pretty miserable existence. So we don't want that. Again, it's up to 20% of the time. It's not 100% of the time, but it's a pretty big gamble in my mind. 20% is a pretty high percentage, and it really, the Nissen Fundoplication, it's associated with that surgery, and that's the most common surgery being prescribed and being done in this country at the moment. There's others that are sort of up and coming, but I mean, all surgery has side effects. Again, sometimes it's your only option, but I feel very strongly that if you have a small up to medium size hiatal hernia sliding, there's so much you can do. Your body can repair so much of it, and I'm not talking about that 100% of the widening of the opening in the diaphragm, because that's what happens, right? The esophagus is just a little less than an inch wide, and then you're talking about, widening it to an inch and a half or so with hiatal hernia, but with a small to medium hiatal hernia. And then, so I'm not saying that 100% of that gap closes, but we're really talking about function, right? We're talking about a pressure on the stomach, the pressure causing that upward push. As soon as you handle the inflammation and you don't have that pressure on the stomach, the sphincter can regain function to a degree. The diaphragm, we can definitely train it as a muscle to regain some function, and you start getting all of the redundancies that the human body has to make things go correctly, including getting tone to the vagus nerve. Now, not surgical damage, but just normal vagus function can be regained. So we have so many avenues by which we can kind of attack what has occurred to create this, that patients regularly regain optimal function and they're not bothered with their hiatal hernia. And whether you're talking about an inch becoming an inch and a half to an inch and 3/4. I mean, I'm moving my hands very broadly here, but yeah, I mean, we all know what that dimension looks like. We find here that whatever amount is healed and regained, it's really about restoring the function. So we're just focusing on the opening is widened, it's widened, and we have to stitch it back to normal. Well, it's not nothing. It's not like a hole in your jeans, and you want a 1-inch hole and it became a 1.5-inch hole, so you're gonna stitch a 1/2 inch. There's a lot more that goes on with these surgeries, and including this dumping syndrome. So there's and potential damage to your vagus nerve, and boy, the vagus nerve is so important. The thought of damaging it is truly frightening. So I just want you to know this information. I hear from, on my channel, a lot of young people who just like, just gonna do the surgery, get it over with, and it sounds so, and I know they're not being flippant, but they're also young, and they're being given this as their only option. It's like, well, if you really want to get rid of this reflux, let's do that. Nothing about their diet or lifestyle or anything like that. So I just think what I want to share with you today is this information. There's a lot of other ways we can come at this before we do surgery. I think unless it's an emergency, then it should be the port of last resort. So I hope you found this informative. If this is you and you want our assistance, we are here for you. Absolutely. This is our specialty. And if you like the information you get on this channel, please consider subscribing. We're trying to increase our subscribers so that more people can get this information and know the options that they have for their health, which is, what's more important, than your health and being able to enjoy the life you want to lead. And if you give it a thumbs up, that's great too. Share it with somebody you know also suffers, and we'll talk soon.